right now we've got two strategies. Let's take Nikki Haley first, and then we're going to talk about Ron DeSantis. But like Haley's gone all in New Hampshire, right? The RCP average, the Real Clear Politics average right now has the race at the following: Trump at 46.3, Haley 33.5, Christie, who by the way dropped out, at 12, DeSantis at 6. Now, if you look at the last two polls, the St. Anselm poll and the Boston Globe poll, they came out after Christie dropped out and after Ramaswamy dropped out. They've got Trump at 52 to 38 for Haley, 6 for DeSantis. Trump at 50, 36 for Haley in the Boston Globe poll, and 6 for DeSantis, which is, to me, they were both conducted over the same amount of time. They both came out with almost the same result, right? DeSantis at 6% in both polls, Nikki at 38 in one, 36 in the other. That's a wash. That's the margin of error. Trump at 52 and 50 in the other. That's a wash in the margin of error. So basically, that's where the race stands right now in New Hampshire. Do you think that Nikki Haley, this is her last stand? We asked that at the beginning. Like, what does this look like next Tuesday night?
Well, I think it's hard for me to conceive of her not going down to South Carolina, although if she gets creamed in South Carolina, that's going to be embarrassing in her home state.
Don't you think? Yeah, here's the thing, just so we're clear, and let's just give everyone the context there. In South Carolina, the Real Clear Politics average has Trump at 52, Haley at 21.8, and DeSantis at 11 there, right? She's actually getting crushed more in a state that she was elected twice as governor than she is in New Hampshire, where, by the way, independents and Democrats can vote. And I think that's what's probably helping her in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, that's her entire strategy in New Hampshire. I think you've seen Governor Sununu has sort of been lowering expectations to try and make it seem like a firm second place finish is some kind of massive victory here. Look, I've always been somewhat baffled by what the end game is for all of the non-Trump candidates at this point. When you've seen the polling be so consistent and robust and it's cemented in all of these states, what is the point? What's the angle of hanging around? And obviously for some candidates, it's prepare yourself for 2028 and beyond. This is about getting up your name recognition, building infrastructure, connections, and ultimately leveraging these ties down the road in future races. For Haley, it seems like the entire plan has been, I'm going to be the most electable candidate in a one-on-one race against a Democrat, and I've got essentially whatever the remnants of kind of the Wall Street GOP, Chamber of Commerce, Republicans looks like. But as represented in the polling, that's a fraction of actual rank and file Republican voters. So she's a candidate really without a constituency in a Republican primary. So is the idea to stay in this, burn through lots of money, rack up some percentage of delegates as everyone else drops out so that then somehow something happens at the convention or post-convention? If you want to play the conspiracy theory, let's look at the rules. If you look at the Democrat bylaws, they have a way where the DNC can essentially pick whoever the nominee is going to be if there's a vacancy post-convention. I believe the RNC rules are similar, but other than that kind of scenario, what is the black swan event that you're expecting to happen to Donald Trump? Right. If Donald Trump was convicted tomorrow, if Donald Trump was put in prison tomorrow, do you think it would fundamentally change things? And by the way, that's not going to happen based upon how Jack Smith has gotten thwarted time and time again with his ridiculous, Soviet show trial style effort against President Trump. So at the end of the day, I'm just not sure what the plan is exactly. Do I think she stays in after getting likely crushed in New Hampshire by 10 to 15 points? I do. Do I think it's going to be worse in South Carolina? I do. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure what the plan is exactly. Maybe you have some insight, Sean, into...
No, I'm asking because I honestly... Ashley, do you have any insight into this?
Okay, I'll throw out a crazy idea. It's a question. I have no insight into this whatsoever. At some point, would she consider... go back and look at Iowa. Johnson County, she basically targeted Democrats, and they said that they had the largest number of people who switched from Democrat to Republican to be a part of the caucus, right? So that's who she's targeting. Same thing in New Hampshire, targeting independents and Democrats to vote for her. She obviously is not a true Republican nominee. Would it be possible for her to leave the Republican Party and join Joe Manchin on a no-party ballot?
Look, pledge aside, future aside, even me has a hard time buying that that's I mean, I get it. And there's been a lot of media folks that said, oh, she's got to be the darling of no labels. I mean, Amber, call me naive. I just have a hard time believing you've spent your whole life as a Republican. She's not stupid, right? She knows that if you go no labels, you literally have a better chance of being abducted by Martians and winning the Mars lottery than you do of doing well in no labels in terms of winning. So I feel like that's even a bigger bank shot than she's doing right now in the primaries.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, honestly, what Ben was saying about how candidates have been challenging Trump mostly because they want to build up 2028 infrastructure and donors, I think is actually what the Haley campaign was created for. I mean, just based on consultants I was talking to when she announced her candidacy, I was asking who is her constituency, and they said, well, she doesn't have one. She's just building up for 2028. But then I think she had a couple of decent debate performances and maybe got a little bit out over her skis and genuinely thinks that she can be competitive. And now she has this electability argument, which, by the way, doesn't make much sense because if you lose half of the Republican base as you're picking up these independents and Democrats, it doesn't help you a whole lot. I mean, the polling out of Iowa showed that there would be more Republicans there who would not vote for DeSantis or Haley if they ended up becoming the nominee than those who would defect from Trump. That's a serious problem. And so now she has to make this calculation, which is a difficult one. Does it look worse if I don't make it to my home state or if I get creamed in my home state? And I don't know if there's a clear answer there, unfortunately for her. I'm
sorry. I think getting your butt kicked in your home state that you were elected twice as governor is literally that's it. You're done. That's a kill shot. I think that's
Kamala Harris became vice president, so maybe not.
Fair enough, but didn't she drop out before California?
She
dropped out. Yeah, she dropped out before Iowa. So of course
her polling was so bad.
But the difference is it's one thing to poll bad. It's another thing to have literally be rebuked by your own voters. I think that's why Kamala dropped out, so she didn't get her butt kicked. I mean, she was polling horrendously. Ben, I'm going to give you this is going to be the exclusive unveiling, and you guys are witness to this, of my Ron DeSantis explanation. I watched all these media types try to understand why he bolted from Iowa to South Carolina, right? South Carolina is the end of February. Like the guy owns a calendar. He realizes that you've got New Hampshire next week, right, on Tuesday, then Nevada, and then South Carolina. Why is he going to South Carolina? And everyone's like, well, he's trying to show up Nikki Haley. Here's the thing. One of you guys mentioned like the rules or something in passing about something else. The rules matter. I read this before, so let's go back and just do this real quick. The Real Clear average in New Hampshire for Ron DeSantis, 6%. The St. Anselm poll, he got 6%. The Boston Globe poll, he got 6%. The WHD Emerson poll, he got 7%. CNN UNH poll, he got 5%. Why does that matter? It matters because New Hampshire has a 10% threshold. If you don't hit 10%, you can't even qualify for delegates. South Carolina, no threshold. So he knows that not only would he get smoked in New Hampshire, but it's a complete waste of time. You wouldn't even qualify for delegates if you went there under every single poll that's come out. And I think DeSantis is trying to figure out a way to tap dance as long as he can without embarrassment. But I still don't see the game. You need gas in the car. You need volunteers to put up signs, to make phone calls. After being smoked in New Hampshire, how does he make the case to say, stay with me for a month to go into South Carolina, where I'm currently polling an average of 11? The last poll has me at 7. I don't get that strategy.
Plus, practically, you're going to run out of money, or your donor's going to want to throw good money after bad. So practically, I think there's a challenge there. I like your theory, and I think looking at the rules is always wise. I mean, this calls to mind back in 2016 when you had, all the different non-Trump candidates trying to figure out what can we do to get the delegate numbers up and game the system to try and ultimately win in some kind of brokered convention. But that is the way that a candidate should thinking about it. This is a game of math at the end of the day.